bit of news for your Bears, specifically here. Kyler Gordon, their slot corner, signs a $40 million deal. I struggle to call this a record. It was reported as a record. I think his agent texted all the people and said this is a record deal for a slot cornerback. Deommodore Lenoir, do we forget, just signed a 5-year, $92 million deal. This is a 3-year, $40 million deal. Deommodore Lenoir played like 100 more snaps from the slot than Kyler Gordon did last year, even if he plays a little bit more outside. So not quite a record, but a good deal, in my opinion, for the Bears.
It's a great deal for the Bears, man.
And this is like wide receiver 3 numbers that you're having to pay this guy.
Yeah, and it's really great for a guy like Dennis Allen to be coming into the building knowing he has a slew of weapons and a number of those guys under contract. Jalen Johnson, in retrospect, is under one of the best contracts that you can find in football for a defensive superstar at the corner position. So you bring Kyler Gordon in, you lock him up, $40 million extension. While that's a big number, it's not that big of a number in the big scheme of things. So good on the Bears for getting this done. I know Dennis Allen's going to utilize him in the right way. Kyler Gordon, all these guys in the secondary for the Bears, they're like a Swiss Army knife, and you can attest to this. They pressure the quarterback, they cover down the football field, and they turn the football over for the Bears. It's huge to get this guy locked up. Big move.
Yeah, I love it from the Bears' perspective. And again, if you can keep that secondary intact, you do it. You do it. It's a very good secondary. All right, the other bit of news, Dolphins and Jalen Ramsey mutually agreeing to seek a trade. Not the player we thought that they'd be seeking to trade for in Tyreek Hill, but another one with a big cap hit who has the dreaded 3 before his age at the cornerback position, turns 31 in October. Obviously, any corner over 30, you always worry about play slipping. Obviously, Jalen is not the guy he once was, but still was pretty darn good a season ago. This one makes a ton of sense from the Dolphins' perspective. Obviously, they have a lot of cap massaging to do over the next couple seasons to make this roster competitive yet again, and a lot of drafts they need to knock out the park. But are there any teams you want to see Jalen Ramsey go to?
Well, you and I were talking before the show, and, Green Bay is a team that comes up. But I want to talk about this situation and how it occurs so often in the National Football League. You just said it. He's not the player he once was. Well, newsflash, none of us are when we're in our 30s. But if you're looking relative to how he came into the league, just a comet of a player, so explosive, such a big playmaker, obviously wildly popular because of his off-the-field personality and at the podium, you're looking at Jalen Ramsey at probably 75, 80% of what he once was at 100%. And that's still a really good football player. You also attested to the fact that he had a good year last year. It's just not the Jalen Ramsey we're used to seeing. So whoever does land this guy, I'm sure he'll have a second wind of sorts, but you're never going to get the guy that you had when he came into the league.
Yeah, and if he does get traded, so the Dolphins obviously going to eat a big chunk of his cap hit. His numbers aren't insane. We'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of $14-15 million for whoever is taking him over the next couple seasons. I think that probably will mean there's going to be a market for him. Now, is it going to be a first or second rounder? Probably not. I could see maybe a third if someone's desperate, maybe more likely a couple day 3 picks or some very future thirds in that. I think the Rams also make sense. Obviously intimately familiar with him, having won a Super Bowl with him. And they're a team that makes moves like this, trading for a vet, getting him back in the fold. They did the same thing with Darius Williams. He's back on that roster, right? So I think that's another team that comes to mind that could make a play for Jalen Ramsey. But the Dolphins right now, we talked about their draft needs, and like the Tron Armstead retirement all of a sudden opens up this massive need along the offensive line, even if they have Patrick Ball there. The Christian Wilkins leaving last year left this big hole at DT, and now this, and Kyle Fuller leaving leaves a massive, Kendall Fuller, leaves a massive hole at the cornerback position for the Dolphins. Yeah, Kyle Fuller. I was looking at your Bear sweatshirt. All right, last bit of news. Giants reportedly scheduled a private workout with Shedeur Sanders. They met with him intimately. I keep saying intimately today, but they met with him intimately at the Shrine Bowl, even though he didn't throw there.
It was
now
intimate.
Scheduling a private workout, another intimate workout. Do we buy any chance he goes number 3 overall here?
I mean, you got to think they got to take a swing of the bat in New York. And for a long time, there were people, for whatever reason, and obviously I'm no draft expert at the quarterback position, but there were people saying this guy might not even be as highly rated as some of us have him. And as of late, what we've heard from these big time draft analysts that we see on the boob tube, the television, they're talking about this guy having incredible pocket presence and the ability to lead in that cloudy window, that cloudy dish. And as you and I both know and understand, that is such a key part of being successful in the National Football League. You get a guy with that intangible and you bring him under the tutelage of a guy like Brian Daboll with a weapon like Malik Neighbors. I could see things start to pick up momentum for the New York Giants with this situation. But then again, you just got Jameis Winston. You just got Russell Wilson. But 3-4 weeks ago, the only quarterback on your roster was Tommy DeVito. So things have already changed drastically in New York at the quarterback position. Are they going to further bolster that room with Shedeur Sanders? I don't know. They're going to find out everything they want to know. Daboll is going to be locked in on his guy. He's going to have him do exactly the things. If there are any question marks in the resume of Shedeur Sanders, they will be tested in this workout. I remember at the end of my career, and this is totally different, but kind of the same, I had a workout with the Raiders, and it was after a year of retirement. And there were certain things that weren't there in my game at the end of my first stint in the league with the Bears. And the Raiders wanted to test specifically those things. They were checking lateral movement. They were checking a number of things. Whatever those things are for Shedeur Sanders, they're going to get tested rigorously by Brian Daboll and his staff.
I'm going to reiterate my big dumb theory about what the Giants could do, which is Travis Hunter at 3, Shedeur slides, you're sitting at pick 34, and you pair up the Colorado duo once again by trading back up into the first round. Jumping probably Pittsburgh. Pick 20, 19, somewhere in that range.
2 bites at the apple.
And you get the both. You get the duo yet again. Because I do think just like that's where you draft Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion. It's not number 3 overall when you have an elite prospect sitting there, and especially when your job's on the line. But if he slides a little, you make that play.
I mean, that would be the buddy. That's sticking the landing right there. That's like hitting it off the rock on the side of the fairway, and your ball flies another 150 yards and lands right by the cup. That's perfect. That's perfect living. And let's be honest, there's only one quarterback, in my opinion, who's ready-made for that market. The number one media market on planet Earth is in New York City, and they will eat you alive if you're a minnow. And there's something that tells me, even if he is small, he's one of those fish that eat everything up. He's a piranha. He's a piranha. I think he eats up that market, and you pair that with maybe some of those intangibles with his pocket presence and his ability to stay calm. And it could be a lot of success in New York if that does end up being the move.
Do we, with the changing media landscape, obviously it's still a massive city, but is the media market thing maybe, I don't want to say a little overblown, but like, is it changing?
No.
Because I think, you don't think so? It's still?
No.
Okay.
Because you know what happens when you shut the radio off? You know what happens when you put your phone away or you shut the iPad or the laptop down? You got to go get Starbucks. Mm-hmm. And you got to go, you got to go to the Travis Matthew pop-up that's in town. And if you're in a place like, name any non-major media market. If you're in one of those towns, if you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, and you're the 200th most famous guy because all the other guys drive NASCARs and shit, it helps. But when you're on the Chicago Bears, when you're a New York Giant, when you are a Dallas Cowboy, name any of these teams, people are on you from the minute you leave the facility to the minute you go to your house. So you have to be a certain type of way. You have to be able to deal with people. But then, the iPad and the phones are on all day. So it's also that media stuff comes into play more often than not. And if you're used to it, if you grew up in the limelight, you can handle it.
Yeah. Your DMs are a mess if you're a Eagles QB, Giants QB, Cowboys QB. You're just getting bombarded.